Hello, hello. Welcome to Permission to Leap, a podcast exploring the stories of people who have brought their visions to life. Each week, I, your host, Bri Seeley, speak to an inspiring guest and navigate the process they took to take the leap in their own lives from the day they first committed to the day they landed on the other side. Permission to Leap is the spark that will push you to believe in your dreams again and make them your reality. Today's guest is extra super special. It's me. I am doing my first solo podcast and have some interesting, transparent, vulnerable things to share with you. So we'll dive right in. I have my tea, I have my phone on silent, and let's do this. So for those of you that may be joining us for the first time, I am a coach, an author, and a speaker. And I support people in bringing their visions to life. Hence the podcast, bringing your vision to life. I happen to have about 20 years of experience doing this. Honestly, probably my entire life, but there's a lot of my childhood I don't remember. That's a story for another day. However, today we are talking about bringing our visions to life. So, for those of you that may not know, I wrote a book this year. It is 2017, and in January I was in meditation and got a really clear message that this year I was writing a book. I had no idea what I was writing about. I embarked upon the journey, said yes in January, figured out what I was writing in May, wrote the book in June, took July, August, September, October to get the book finished, get it designed, get it edited, and get it out into the world in November. So I wrote, designed, published, and all of the things in between a 55,000 word book in 5 months. It was a lot of work and a lot of energy. In the midst of all that, I shut down a second business. I was managing a team. What else was going on in my life was maintaining my health because I have been recovering from a chronic illness for the last 10 years. I maintained my exercise regimen, my physical movement. I had a social life. I had a dating life. All sorts of things. And it was a lot. So during the process of bringing that vision to life for myself, I actually decided to record. Almost every day, I wasn't committed to every day, but almost every day, did a little short video clip of what was going on in my life, where I was at, my mental state, my energetic state, my emotional state, all of those things, and put together a little 90-day countdown to book launch. But since then, and if you're interested in looking any of those up, you can go to my YouTube channel. I believe it's youtube.com/C, the letter C as in cat, /Bri Seeley. There is a channel within my channel. I guess, what is it called? A playlist within my channel that has all of my book launch countdown videos in it. So you can take a look at that if you want to see the entire journey. What the part of the journey I'm going to be sharing with you in this podcast episode is the post-launch. So I have been experiencing, I'm now 2 weeks post-book launch, I have been experiencing what I have now dubbed the post-creation hangover. Now, this plays out in all levels and layers and kinds of creation. You know, women get it after having babies. Creatives get it after launching whatever they're launching out into the world. And it has been kind of expected, but also kind of unexpected and really, really interesting and transformative for me. So what does this post-creation hangover look like? So the day of my book launch, I was home alone all day working because my team was with me Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My book launch was on a Tuesday. So my book launch day was pretty anticlimactic. I did what I always do every day. Had my cats by my side in my home working diligently all day. Some numbers changed on the screen to say that I was a bestseller in 4 different categories. I hit the top 0.03% of all Kindle books. I was in like the top 100 authors for a period of time. Like all these things happened and all these numbers were flashing on my screen. And, I had 90 reviews and people tweeting it, hundreds of tweets and Facebook posts and all these things, all this flurry of activity and excitement. I had over 2,000 downloads in the first week. And then the next day hit and I had nothing. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was tired, but not like to the point of exhaustion. My team luckily was coming. I had to get out of bed. And kind of did nothing that day. And here's why I think this happened. Expectations, right? So when we embark upon something or when we do something, or hell, even just going somewhere, if we leave the house, we have expectations about how it's going to play out, how our lives are going to look on the other side, what's going to happen, all of these things. And so I had hopes and expectations that, the book was going to launch and like that moment was going to be the moment. And from that moment on, it was only, it was going to be upwards from there. And all these things were going to immediately fall into place and happen and click. And, I was going to like fill my coaching programs and all of these things. And I had all of these ideas and expectations that like the second people read my book or that, they'd download it and they'd immediately want to become a client, or they'd download it and want to book me for a speaking gig or whatever it was. And the reality is it doesn't happen that way. And it's funny because I talk about this in the book. I talk about how your physical world is always behind your energetic world, always. So even though the energy of the book launch happened and I had this massive energetic expansion, the physical world just isn't there yet. Like it hasn't caught up yet. But as a human, I still had the expectation that it would. So the day after, my interns came and we worked all day. Well, they worked. I quote unquote worked. I was on my computer all day, not working, pretending to work. And mostly just refreshing all the screens again and again and again and again. And the second they left, I had been sitting on my couch and they left, the door closed behind them, and I'd been sitting on my couch and I just leaned over to lay down on my couch and I just stayed there. And I laid down on my couch at 4:00 that afternoon and I just didn't get up. I think I got up and switched to my bed at about 10:00 that evening. And the next day, Thursday, I didn't have my team with me. And I just did the same thing all day on Thursday. I let myself, well, I don't want to say I let myself, because this naturally happens with this period of massive expansion. There's always a slight contraction afterwards. There's always a pause. There's always this, Seth Godin talks about it as like the dip. There's always this little dip. You put out all this massive energy, all this momentum, and then like right after that, there's a little dip or a little pause right before things start on that upward trajectory. And I started to get pretty down on myself. I started to doubt and get angry and shame myself and just kind of go through all of the negative things that I consciously know are not beneficial, they're not helpful, they're not productive, they're not really, like I quote unquote shouldn't be going there at all, right? And consciously I know that, and unconsciously my everything about me just wanted to go into hiding. I wanted to curl up into a ball and just not get up again. So I kind of let myself be in this energetic state for a little while. Luckily, I had a friend coming to stay with me that weekend. So that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, my team came again. I actually got like a little bit of work done that day. And then Saturday, my friend showed up. And the thing that I love about how this all played out, because of course we had quote unquote planned for her to come visit, but I hadn't planned why or what what that gift of her visiting was actually going to be for me. And what it was, she had injured herself. This was Ashley Cooper. If any of you have listened to my podcast before, she was just on a few weeks ago. Ashley Cooper had gotten stitches in her foot right before coming to visit me. So she shows up at my place with crutches and stitches and unable to really walk very much. And I got the opportunity in that gift to get out of my own way. And I think that was the biggest turning point for me in getting out of this dip, because my thoughts were not going in the right direction. My energy was not going in the right direction. Every day that passed between Tuesday and then Saturday, and even Saturday I was still a little in it, was me going down the rabbit hole of, I made a mistake. I invested everything I had this year, money, energy, time, focus, everything I had, I invested in writing this book. And look at what it's gotten me. Nothing. Nothing at all. No one, people are writing reviews, but they promised me those reviews before they read the book, so it doesn't really count. And no one's telling me that it's really made a big impact in their life. And my thoughts were going down that rabbit hole of, why did I do this? Why did I commit my year to making this thing happen? Why did I trust that voice that came to me when clearly I shouldn't have, because it's not playing out, quote unquote, the right way or the way that it should be playing out or any of those things. And Ashley's visit allowed me to get out of my own way and really remember that my thoughts were just thoughts, and allowed me to focus on caring and giving and being of service to someone else. And so, it was really a good, and ever since she's left, she was here for a week, ever since she's left, I have been feeling more like myself again. And remembering things like, just because I have thoughts, that doesn't mean that I am those thoughts. So because I have a thought of the book isn't successful, that doesn't mean the book wasn't successful. It means that from my current perspective where I am right now, I'm having this thought based on the information that I have, and that has changed remarkably since getting out of my own way. I'm starting to get messages from people. A girl the other day just read the first 40 pages of the book and said she told me how many things had changed in her life just from the first 40 pages of reading that book. And it's been really transformative of remembering what my truth is, because as a high achieving person, the thing that's really interesting about being that, or being who I am in the world, is that I don't know if I'll ever be satisfied. So someone else looks at the fact that I wrote a #1 best-selling book in 4 categories. I had over 2,000 downloads within the first week. Someone else looks at all these things and is like, that's amazing. Most authors that self-publish don't even get 500 downloads in the entirety, in the longevity, the entire lifetime of their book, much less 2,000 downloads in the first week. And it's helped me to remember that my perspective is everything. And the way that I have been coming out of this post-creation hangover is by reminding myself again and again of what my truth is. So one of the things I did right after Ashley left was I sat down and I recreated my vision. So for anyone that's read the book, I believe it's in chapter 7. Yeah, chapter 7, I talk about my visualization or feelization process. And I am very much someone who practices what she preaches. And so when I'm facing issues or roadblocks or challenges or whatever, I go do the exact same thing that I would tell a client to do, which is reconnect with my vision. And I sat down and I really wrote out what my truth is. What does it feel like to be a 7-figure business owner? despite what my life looks like right now? What does it feel like to have a full coaching practice despite what my life looks like right now? What does it feel like to be speaking on stages all over the world despite the fact that I've only booked 2 speeches for 2018 so far? Like, it's really important when in that space of despair or anguish or getting down on yourself to flip that script and not forcing it, because I still had to go through the depths, and I still have more depths to go through. I have my book and my journal sitting right next to me. I've been meditating like crazy, really getting clear on like, what is the next evolution for me? What level and layer of healing am I needing to address right now in order to feel whole and feel strong enough to be creating this vision in the world? So it's not about just slapping a Band-Aid of a vision on and connecting with your why and forcing the negative stuff to go away. In fact, this book that I'm reading, and this is everything I teach as well, talks about how the path isn't, the path for healing isn't in going around the issue. The path in healing is going through the issue. So if I'm feeling this dissatisfaction of 2,000 downloads isn't enough, and I didn't get any new clients from the book within the first week, and this and that and all the other stories that we tell ourselves about our successes or our failures or whatever that looks like, you still have to address the underlying cause of why those stories are coming up in the first place, and then you get to move into the place of expansion again, the place of joy and creation and connection and all of those things. But it doesn't mean that you go straight there. It doesn't mean you go straight to your vision and try to suppress or ignore the reason that you got into this post-creation hangover to begin with. So the last 2 weeks have been really interesting and eye-opening for me as I have witnessed this experience or this thought process or this evolution that I'm kind of going through right now. And I think it's just really important to talk about because we don't get this a lot. I feel like a lot of people would be out there, and not to say that I'm not celebrating. I posted on Facebook the other day a beautiful photo of me with the book and talked about how I did hit number 1 in 4 categories. And I'm still, 2 weeks later, in the top 1% of all Kindle books online. And I looked the other day, my book was above one of Brene Brown's books. I was ranked 13 and she was ranked 14. And there's all these things. And it's not that I'm not celebrating those things, because I am celebrating those things. And at the same time, I have to honor where my feelings are at and what's going on the inside. So I feel like a lot of people would just go straight to the look at how amazing I am, look at everything I accomplished, everything's great, everything's good, all of the surfacey level stuff. And while that stuff is very true for me, there's also this other side that is also concurrently very true for me. And that's that I have been down the last 2 weeks, and I have been facing some disappointment. And it's disappointment that I've placed on myself. It's expectations that I've placed on myself. It's all of my own creation. It's all of my own making. And now I get the opportunity to, after having looked at that, create something else for my life, create something else for myself. And it's interesting because I didn't talk about this post-creation hangover in the book because I wasn't there yet. I wasn't to that stage. I have experienced it before, but as I was writing, it didn't occur to me that it would happen again. And so it's not in the book. But, who knows? Maybe this is the next iteration of the next book for me, is really talking about this idea of going through these things, going through the healings, going through the depths of the expansion instead of just kind of brushing over it and moving to all the happy, pretty, rainbows, sunshine, puppies kind of experience versus really allowing ourselves to be where we are. And there's an interview coming up in a few weeks with Sherry Amay, and we talk a lot about forgiveness and we talk about healing, and that's all of the stuff that I'm going through right now. And I'm really learning on a deeper level how to co-create and what that looks like versus having this codependence, having these expectations, going through this cycle of disappointment and not enoughness and all of these things. So you can see the journey through the 90 days of the book launch. And then this is kind of a post book launch update, because I think that talking about the lows, not that this is necessarily a low, it's just another part of the journey, is just as important as the highs. And so for any of you that are in the creation process, please remember that, having a post-creation hangover is completely normal and incredibly expected. And be easy on yourself. Give yourself the space to heal within it. Give yourself the space to be present through it. Give yourself the space to have a cup of tea and take a bath and really honor the expansion and the growth that you have been committed to, that you've been creating, that you might not be able to see yet, but it doesn't mean it's not there. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Permission to Leap. I actually have to run because I have to go record another episode with a guest. Quick thank you to Studio, who is this awesome makers of these awesome headphones I'm wearing. They're pretty, huh? They've got this they're white and I think rose gold or maybe gold. I can't really tell the difference, but Studio is awesome. They supplied me with my headphones to record all of my podcasts because audio quality is important. So if you are looking to take your next big leap, be sure to check out my book, Permission to Leap, on Amazon. As I've stated, it's a #1 bestseller and it's pretty good. It's got 93 reviews and they're all excellent. It will support you in moving through your leap with more clarity and ease, because the world needs more people like you in the world, doing big things, making change, creating an impact, and making a positive difference in the world. So much love today and always. I will see you next week on another episode of Permission to Leap. Have a good one.